morning. Welcome to Third Rail Ministries. My name is Pastor Phil, and I'm the host for the next few minutes as we journey through our Advent season together. Well, we've been using the Jesse tree as a decorative construct that enables us to trace theological and biological lineage of the Christ child through the Old Testament. What we do is we have a bulb that has a word on it, and today's word is throne. And what it does is it symbolizes, so when the Jesse tree is full, and I'm behind my bulbs over there putting them up, but when it's all full we can pluck a bulb off like throne, and we're going to talk about King David today and what part did he play in the lineage of Jesus Christ, both theologically and biologically. So it's my hope together that you learn a little bit, that the education will happen, and if you have any commentary, please comment underneath. And subscribe to us, if you will. That'd be great. Trying to build a ministry here, and like us with a little bell. If you are, it's not like it's hit the bell. I guess it is. And then what happens is you get notified whenever we put anything up. So anyway, having said all of that preparatory commentary, let me read from the first chapter of Luke, kind of our reference text here. Luke 1:30-33 says, "And the angel said to Mary, 'Fear not, for you have found favor with God. And behold, you will conceive in your womb and bear a son. And you will call him Jesus Christ. He will be great and will be called the Son of the Highest. And the Lord God will give him the throne of his father David.'" As you can tell, what part of the verse we're going to focus on, other than the awesome news that Mary got, that she had found favor with God, sometimes I have a hard time putting my head around that. How does one find favor with God? It must have been a tremendous person. But anyway, if you remember last video, we talked about Ruth and Ruth's part in the lineage of David. And it goes, Ruth and Boaz's, their son was Obed, and Obed becomes the father of Jesse, who becomes the father of David, hence the name of the Jesse tree, kind of like the stump that through everything came out from. So, as I said before, this is just a physical image that looks nice in the background of my shot here, and also kind of serves as a reminder. And today we're using the word throne on a bulb to start us thinking about David. So, King David, big name in Israelite history. Let's take a little bit about some common things that I just jotted down for you to consider as we go through the study of the Old Testament, how it contributes to the New Testament gospel. First of all, both David and Jesus. Now, this sounds like a small thing, but when you think about your work and when you think about some of the tasks you've been chosen for in life, both David and Jesus were chosen for a job. David was chosen to lead the people of Israel. In 1 Samuel 16, I think it is, we have the conversation of God to the prophet Samuel, where he tells him to quit moaning over Saul. It didn't work out. I told you it wouldn't, but the people wanted him, so everything else. Now I have chosen a king. I have chosen David. And so and I want you to go and anoint him and get over this grieving for Saul business. So Samuel takes the hint and goes out to Jesse's house. And he doesn't know it's David, but he has them bring all of the sons out from the field. And so he does, and they all come in, and none of them are the ones that God has chosen. And he says, "Do you have any more sons?" He says, "Yeah, we got the last one. He's out there tending the sheep," which, by the way, is the lowest job. You go out and stand in the fields and protect the sheep. It's a valuable job because somebody's got to watch, but it's not a very rewarding job. And as you'll see as it goes forward into the gospel, it's like the shepherd or the flock tender is a low job on the society's echelon of responsibilities. And so David's out there. So they call in David. In fact, Samuel says, "We're not going to sit down until this kid gets in here and we take a look at him." And then the scriptures say when he came in, he was chosen, he was ruddy, he was handsome to look on. And then God spoke to Samuel and said, "This is the one." So David is chosen to eventually lead the people of Israel. In the same way, Jesus is also chosen. By being the Son of God, and yes, when you look at John 1:1 and you see that Jesus was there during creation, there's some mind-bending things around that go on, but Jesus is the person who comes to earth born as a child through Mary to live a 33-year life, the last 3 of which his ministry exists, which establishes himself and then offers his life in our stead as our Messiah and our Redeemer. Both men chosen to lead the people of Israel. David, Jesus chosen to save all of the people. Next thing I want you to think about, David was a man who sought after God's heart. And the same thing is that Jesus also seeks after God's heart. You can see David oftentimes, and David didn't do a great job of it. In fact, some of his sins are still billboard affairs in 2020. But David repented every time, and he sought after God's favor. Jesus also sought after God's heart. Best example I can tell you about is in the Garden of Gethsemane, where he says, if this cup may pass, but your will, not mine. He seeks God's favor. So I see that as a common connection theologically between both men. David was a shepherd of his father's sheep. Jesus is also a shepherd of his father's sheep. David depended on God for strength and clarity of direction. The book of Psalms is full of David's prayers and David's grieving and David's singing of joy. And and the story of David is full of David constantly looking toward his God for direction. Jesus also went up into the mountains for prayer, and we see him documented time and time again looking for his Father for clarity of purpose, looking for God. So those are just a couple of things that start off with to think about as far as where David fits in their thing. We go down a little further, or let's go back up to the verse and review that for a second. The angel's talking to Mary, and she says, he, meaning Jesus, the child she's going to bear, will be great and will be called the Son of the Highest, and he is. He's the Son of God. And the Lord God will give him the throne of his father David. Now, this is an interesting little piece that that also connects the two of them together. In the fact that King David became, and still is, regarded as the king of Israel on an earthly fashion. The two people, though separated by centuries, occupied in their own time the same throne. Both are called King of the Jews. David is the king of Israel, the first real molding king that God has chosen. He's the king, literally, of the Jews. And David was selected by God and anointed by Samuel, just as Jesus was selected by God. Excuse me. The wise men approached Herod and announced, where is he who was born king of the Jews? So both have the identity of the same thing. They're just separated by centuries. Both men ascend to their respective thrones through great difficulty. David, the minute he gets anointed, is almost like a turning point in his life. After that, he eventually breaks down with his relationship with King Saul, where he's being chased all over the country by King Saul, seeking to protect his men as the country divides over following David and staying with King Saul. But he refuses to take out God's chosen until the right time, when God makes the opportunity for him to become king available. Jesus is harassed through his ministry, with the only reference other than the wise men being an insincere mocking sign placed above his head on the cross to which he died. Here is the one called King of the Jews. David occupied the throne of Israel. Jesus now occupies, which the throne of Israel was the throne of being king of the chosen people. Jesus now, through his resurrection and his time on earth here, occupies the throne of David, the one that was promised to David, that king will always occupy your throne. And he sits on the king of watching over all of God's people. Without pushing the comparison too far, I think it's fair to say that King David and King Jesus are connected. They're connected through God, they're connected through, which is a theological connection, and they're connected through biology. Jesus is in the lineage of King David. And as was prophesied and foretold And his birth, as promised by the angel, fulfills that prophecy. So when we see the bulb on the throne, on the tree, and it says throne, just think of not only King David, but also think of Jesus, the King of all of God's people, sitting on the throne at the right hand of God at this very day. Have a great day. God bless.